Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Building a Play-to-Earn Economy within the Metaverse panel. And on stage right now, we have a lot of special guests that are going to be here. Michael Wagner from Star Atlas, Beryl from Guild Games, and also Alex from Public Crypto as well. And I kind of wanted to kind of introduce you guys, and let's just go ahead and kind of, I would say, go around the discussion. Michael, would you be able to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, sure. So Michael Wagner, I'm co-founder and CEO of Star Atlas. For anyone not familiar, Star Atlas is a virtual gaming metaverse centered around space exploration, territory control, and political domination. One of the key differentiators in the way that we're building our product is the simple fact that we're building to the highest caliber development standard, so AAA gaming, which will deliver to our users a hyper-realistic cinematic quality gaming experience. And naturally, we're introducing a number of blockchain components to that gaming experience itself. That includes things like true asset ownership through NFTs, dual token ecosystem, and the integration of a number of DeFi primitives that will enable our users not only to play to earn, but compound and grow wealth over time through storing those assets on chain. So, yeah.
Excellent. Beryl?
Yes. Hi, I'm Beryl. Pleasure to be here. I'm co-founder of Guild Games, looking after finance and a bit of business development. Guild Games is a gaming guild. We're structured as a decentralized autonomous organization. We, as a DAO, invest in a number of play-to-earn NFTs, and we actually lend them out to our community of players, where they actually end up using the assets to be able to spend time playing the game and earn in-game rewards, which could be converted to fiat. So as an example, in the Philippines, they're able to buy and put food on the table and milk for their kids during the pandemic.
Excellent. That's amazing. Also, Alex?
Yeah, thanks for having me on here. I'm Alex, and I am one of the managing directors here at Republic Crypto. In particular, I lead our early stage practice, working with founders on everything from the early stage design and strategy and private fundraising efforts.
Excellent. Welcome to have you guys. And see, it's an all-star panel. And I kind of wanted to dive in a little bit into like the play-to-earn economy, especially right now. Michael, I noticed that you were doing a kind of like a two-token approach. Like, how does both of those tokens kind of create a way for, basically investors and players to earn on both sides?
Yeah. So, I mean, first and foremost, I would kind of just clarify, the concept of play to earn within the metaverse is maybe not fully fleshed out. I mean, what we're truly developing here is a fully functioning and self-sustaining economic system that applies not only to the digital realm and digital world that we're building out, but certainly applies to the physical world as well. So with that being said, the dual token system that we operate includes a transactional currency or medium of exchange that's called Atlas. Now, this is essentially the unit of account that is the primary financial reward mechanism. So as you're playing through inflation and emission of Atlas, players are compensated for that time. It is also the denomination for all expenses within the game. And so within Star Atlas, we have essentially operating costs for all of the activities that the players are engaged in or people are participating in. And so that would include things like if you're flying a ship, periodically you will need to refuel that ship, or you'll need to repair it for damages, right? If you're operating and being productive on land, then you'll need to replace, say, mining equipment or pay your employees, the NPC AI labor that's working your farm, as well as things like upgrading items over time and the purchases of other consumables. So the entire currency of the metaverse is denominated in Atlas. Again, in summary, it's that's the income and also expense unit. Now, separate from that, we've also developed out a DAO structure, decentralized autonomous organization structure. This is actually in close collaboration with Alex and his team at Republic. They are advisors on Star Atlas. And it's a hierarchical DAO structure. So we have kind of this external master DAO that will, in the long term, enable influence and contribution from the individual player in our development and decision-making processes. And so that means they could influence development around asset release schedules, around feature releases, economic decision-making like inflation in the game and reward structures. Players or governors, rather, that are stakers of this token, Polis, will have influence over those decisions, as well as the ability to earn emissions and also take ownership in a portion of the GDP, the economy within the metaverse itself. And then within the game, in terms of our political strategy element of the game, there are 3 separate factions that people can participate in, and we have faction DAOs. And then moving that down to a local level, we have regional DAOs. And this might be something like a local solar system, a local cluster, or just even a local planet. And then ultimately at the really at the center of everything that we're doing at Star Atlas is our guild DAO structure, which we call DACs. So these are decentralized autonomous corporations pulling from early DAO nomenclature, if you will. DAO essentially evolved from the DAC concept back in 2013 or 2014, I want to say. But the concept there is that we can actually enable guilds like YGG. Now, they don't need it in this case. They're well established, but guilds like YGG to be able to create their own governance structures as well as treasury management protocols. And this will all exist within the guild registration process in Star Atlas. So not only are you registering yourself as a group of players, but you get this tool set delivered alongside that. And then you can collectively make decisions as a group of players, with a hierarchy of decision making in place, and successfully participate within the economy of Star Atlas.
Yeah, and then kind of like with the tokenomics that you were talking about as well with Alex, like how did you guys come up with the system to make it to where it's a little bit more like balancing structure for like, are you guys able to like do rebalances through voting with like the different emissions?
Not well. So to elaborate on the DAO structure itself, outside of the decision making that it has through the governance protocols, it does effectively manage. You could consider it the treasury of the entire metaverse economy within Star Atlas anyway. So all of those operating costs that I was referring to, for example. So every time somebody pays an NPC to repair their ship, those assets, which are denominated in Atlas, actually flow directly into the DAO. And then the DAO governors can make a number of different decisions on how to utilize those. So they could be distributed out directly to the stakeholders as yield. They could be just directly burned. They could be re-injected back into the economy as an incentive and subsidy to grow the user base. I always like to clarify on this point because it sounds a little bit counterintuitive for an individual to make a decision to defer income, if you will, and to reinvest it back into this kind of decentralized product. But ultimately, the objective that we all should share is trying to grow the economy as large as possible. And that means that the more players we have, the greater transactional value and economic value is created, which means in the future, if you're a long-term staker of Polis, it makes a lot of sense to reinvest back into the growth of the user base. And alternatively, you could also just distribute those tokens out. I might have already mentioned that, but yeah, there's a variety of choices that people can make. And they would have complete influence over time. As we distribute Polis and kind of inflate Polis into the economy, we would lose our majority stake, which we do have now, and we've programmed out for a number of years so that we have the full capacity to develop out this product to not only the standards, but to the vision that we've outlined. And so in the future, as we lose that majority stake, it would be possible for individual governors to, collectively to make decisions that we can't prevent. And I think that's an amazing thing and concept that has been introduced through DAOs.
Excellent. And also for Beryl as well at Yo-Yo Games. We just recently heard that, you guys are forteing into Star Atlas and kind of working closely with them as well. Can you tell me a little bit more about like why you guys kind of looked at Star Atlas and like what you guys are kind of planning around that as well? Things that you can release.
Yeah, of course. So we've actually just like built our investment team within YGG. We're actually holders of Polis and Atlas tokens. And the investment team also, if not mistaken, invested in a couple of NFT ships. So the idea here is to be able to actually lend out these NFT assets to players who aren't able to acquire these assets just because, they come from an economic background that, that makes it very difficult for them to afford these NFTs. And so YGG lends these assets out, and they're able to play with these assets and participate in like governance as well within like Star Atlas, as an example.
And then also kind of like the thing about like the sub DAOs with you guys as well. Like you guys are building the DAO structure of the sub DAOs for each independent game as well, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So we have two classifications of sub-DAOs. So the first one that we've done was League of Kingdoms, where we actually have parcels of land, and we've actually tokenized and fractionalized League of Kingdoms land, and a portion of that is actually owned by the community, and a portion of that is YGG, right? And the idea here is for the community to actually play and build on top of the League of Kingdoms land, where they actually have upside for whatever they've actually built. And at the same time, YGG actually holds a portion. So it would actually hold a number of sub-DAOs of classifications, this type of classification of sub-DAOs across various games. So that's one classification, right? A gaming sub-DAO. The second classification is actually a regional sub-DAO, where we are currently like structuring one with Southeast Asia, where they'll be responsible for acquiring users in regionally to localize the acquisition of more players, more communities at the local level. And YGG Global, right, where we actually have the investment team, we actually lend our assets out to the sub-DAOs itself. So it works both ways, where the regional sub-DAOs focus on acquiring the users, and then we actually lend out the investment team lends out the assets to those users.
Yeah, so it gives them more ease of usability, like especially with the NFTs as well, like having a piece of land, but being able to allow more people on it, or even having it shipped, allowing it rented out so that people can utilize it while it's not being utilized. Maybe the ship is needing repairs and stuff like that. But I kind of wanted to dive over to Alex a little bit as well. Kind of wanted to get your kind of topic on like why, like how was it kind of like creating or helping design part of like the tokenomic structure? Like what are some of the areas that you were looking for that you wanted to make sure that was correct and for the tokenomics?
Absolutely. And so there was a lot of considerations we made, given that this was by far one of the most ambitious projects, I would say, at the intersection of both in-game economic design as well as blending it with tokenomics. I would say some of the particular issues that are endemic to a lot of games that become boring and unplayable were what we started off with, right? So in particular, the idea of useless land and the whale problem was in particular one of our biggest focuses. And what we did to try out here, because we do feel that in the DAO-governed metaverse, this will be a lot more applicable, is this idea from a relatively more obscure economist named Henry George, and his idea and main contribution to the field mostly being this theory of a land value tax, whereby land is controlled and owned by the government, but in this case, the reason why we don't do this in the real world is because we don't trust our governments to fully own and price our land per their productive value. But in the case where we have metaverses where user attention is fully voluntary, we believe that the DAO's interest, in this case, in Star Atlas's case, the Star Atlas DAO is fully incentivized to properly price the productive value of this land and tax it as the main form of recurring tax in the economy, so that there is both an incentive to actually operate on the land as opposed to being a pure speculator, and provide a form of recurring revenue back to the DAO treasury. So that's one of the main issues we tackled. But apart from that, what we really worked on and what we strive to do for every one of our projects with Republic is stick to fundamentals. When Star Atlas came to us, and there was a need for governance, a need for an in-game currency, a need to control natural resources, we ultimately started off by reducing it mathematically to a 3 type of token economy, of which 2 of them are fungible, and one of them is a set of natural resources. And we worked very much step by step in order to make sure that we had the complementary values of different assets in games, such as, say, the difference between the awesome Titan ships versus the operated land, and how users were going to navigate that space versus, say, generalists and then later as specialists in their larger guilds and factions. So without diving into too much detail, that's sort of how we built it from the ground up.
And then kind of like this would be a general question geared towards everyone. Where do you guys feel like the play economy is currently right now, and where do you kind of would see like some of the bottlenecks that are happening within the space? Michael?
Well, it's clearly in a very nascent state still. I mean, this I think is probably the first year we're seeing major emergence in play-to-earn gaming or BlockFi gaming. Major credit to Axie. They've been around building for years now, and YGG I think played a really critical role though in the growth of that platform. I mean, YGG through like the scholarship concept and being able to provide access to other people who otherwise wouldn't have access to these types of assets really facilitated this exponential growth that we saw in their user base. But I think play to earn gaming still has a long way to go, both from the standpoint of first game development. So that would include things like graphical fidelity or quality, and also gameplay mechanics that exist today. And so we're seeing a lot of like turn-based games or card-style games across blockchain gaming today. Again, we wanted to kind of shatter that and disrupt that framework by delivering a AAA game that would be attractive to a mainstream audience. So there's at least 2.7 billion gamers around the world. That would be a potential target audience. But I think, more appropriately, as we continue to build and see the interest demographically from emerging markets and developing nations, countries like the Philippines and like Vietnam and like South Africa and India, some places in China. I mean, these are going to be some of the most massive user bases. And so, we've got a bit of a conflict in that we're building out a game that is probably more suitable to developed nations where people have these higher end computers that they have access to, and yet our probably the largest segment of our audience will be looking to engage in some type of mobile gaming or possibly desktop gaming. Now we're tackling that challenge by issuing out our platform across multiple environments. So we're building a web-based minigame application to start. So, this is like if you have an internet connection and a computer, you can start to play while concurrently building out our Unreal Engine fully immersive version of this game. But, I getting a bit deep into the rabbit hole on the game quality itself, game production quality, but I think we have a long way to go, and we'll probably see some mainstream game development studios enter into the space. Although I do think that it's going to be challenging for them to comprehend the alternative revenue models, revenue streams, and economic structures that are going to exist through the integration of crypto. But I think we still have quite a ways to go there. In terms of economic design, I feel like what we're doing at Star Atlas is really on the forefront of economic design within these games and the ability to create a sustainable ecosystem that can potentially live in perpetuity. That's our real objective, and it has been. Developing out a video game concept that can attract the initial user base that delivers very fun, entertaining, enjoyable gameplay experience, but at the same time starts to explore alternative experience around social and human interaction, around governance models, around economic design, as we, kind of the focus today. And I think that going into the future, these are the types of things that people are going to be most actively engaged with outside of the game. And that also allows us to deliver the metaverse as almost a public utility that can continue to evolve and expand into the future. Through the decentralization of governance over time, anybody in the world has the ability to contribute in some meaningful way to the evolution of the product. And, ultimately, I think that is what's going to lead to a product that doesn't have a life cycle of 5 to 10 years. We're not building a game that's only going to live for 10 years or even 20 years. We're building a product that can continue to evolve through time, that could potentially live on forever if we execute well on this.
Yeah, so I totally agree with what Michael have actually mentioned, like everything. So it's still very early days with play to earn, but what's really interesting, what we see at YGG is there's actually more games that's actually coming out. So Axie Infinity has actually proven the play to earn kind of like concept, especially with emerging markets. And there are actually a number of games that will be launching really soon and coming out in the next like 6 months, next year, in the next 2 years. What I'd like to see is actually better token economics, for example, where there would be a much more stable kind of in-game rewards, since the in-game rewards have been like fluctuating. and interesting gameplay that would actually match the interests of different users, right? Like whether it's from emerging markets or whether it's from the US or from the UK, we need games that would actually, like meet the interest for those. What I'm really excited about with gaming is it's actually in the intersection, in the cups of an intersection with finance and decentralized finance itself. So as an example, since we actually distribute in-game rewards to actually our players, you could actually see in data that like for MetaMask account users, out of 10 million users, 20% of that is actually from the Philippines. And a lot of our players have actually learned how to cash out just because these in-game rewards are kind of like a carrot for them to be able to use DeFi applications. Once they actually have earnings, just because a lot of our players never really, a big population in the Philippines still don't have a bank account. And there's a hardly savings, especially during the pandemic when there's so much unemployed. People are able to find an alternative way to earn a living, boost their savings, and they're able to pay out their loans, and then they're able to cash out. And when they learn how to use a basic concept of a crypto wallet, they're able to actually learn how to use what other DeFi platforms like farming, how to yield interests. And this is where we're actually working with other on and off ramps and other financial services to be able to serve our community of players who now have basic income from playing games.
I just want to mention too, quickly there to complement that statement is that, one will see a massive influx and migration of global users into the crypto ecosystem as a result of gaming. One, because it's the potential to earn, but two, it's very entertaining. But three, the best bank account is a self-sovereign, cryptographically secure wallet that you control the private keys of. That's my belief. That's my opinion. And beyond that, we would kind of discourage people from. It's one thing to say liquidate your earnings into some stable coin. That's perfectly reasonable. To eliminate some of that volatility risk and exposure to the earnings themselves. But I think that there's very much a lack of incentive to liquidate back to a national domestic currency. And even if you had a bank account, to deposit those funds in a bank account. In so many cases, you're earning very low yield or negative interest on your deposits at a bank account when factoring for inflation. We have the potential to introduce the global population to decentralized finance tools that can generate significantly higher yield. And so not only are they earning from gameplay, but then once again, they can compound grow those earnings by depositing into something like a liquidity pool or some other interest-bearing stable token DeFi tool. So to me, that is incredibly empowering.
Yeah, and also I kind of wanted to get your input on that as well, Alex. Like, what do you think like the bottlenecks would be?
Yeah, look, I really appreciate both of the angles that Michael and Beryl mentioned. And, at Republic, we take a pretty, or at least I in particular, take a very hard stance on this with the following thesis. For better or for worse, the offline world that the next generation is going to live in is looking bleaker and bleaker day by day, right? And where we see ourselves at this intersection of solving this problem is creating much higher marginal returns on quality of life in these virtual worlds over time. People are going to start spending, as Beryl and Michael have alluded to, their social, professional, and all types of leisure time in these virtual worlds, develop their identities, develop social cohesion and culture in a way that has already started with Web 2.0, but which Web 3.0 and the included development of these metaverses will further facilitate. And to that degree, I think our main goal here is truly to develop a society that is, one, easy to opt into, and then two, that is, as best we can, fair. And so we view crypto and DeFi truly as just a back end for all of this, right? We want the virtual worlds to be beautiful, immersive, interactive, all of those great things. And our jobs here at Republic Crypto is to find all of these amazing developers in the worlds that they're creating a very reliable and stress tested financial infrastructure that they can plug into on day one, and that their users can use seamlessly, regardless of their level of technological knowledge. And so, to that effect, that's sort of where we stand in the ecosystem. And I think everything from eliminating capital-based or oligarchical governance mechanisms to eliminating or best mitigating the pay-to-play problem that is endemic to several games out there, as well as the idea of, say, account spoofing and account spamming are the types of problems we want to tackle, so that people can feel as a complete individual in these virtual universes as we make for our further development in the space.
Yeah, and then also, if you guys haven't seen like the background behind me, it's like, this is my metaverse. Like one day I will be on this, whether it's real life. Hopefully I go to the moon. If not, I would still chill in here. But for gamers as well, it's like we have this second life. Literally, like from us, we have our physical real life, and then the second life is basically us immersed into games. So the point of it is like, if I'm doing something I'm actually enjoying and I'm actually receiving money for it, whether it's through tokens or whichever way, I'm still being a part of a community that I enjoy. And to kind of also like be in another area that is going to be truly astounding, because like even with like Star Atlas, like going into a ship, pairing up with another team and then going on a raid or things like that, or even with Yu-Gi-Oh games, going in there and finding out more about other games, finding a team, finding out how do I get into this, how do I get into that, and building that community together. So I kind of wanted to kind of like get like quick final thoughts from everyone of like, what do you guys feel would be kind of like the future outlook of how metaverses are going to be built? And is there going to be more of like single-sided metaverses, or will it be more towards I would say like collaboration, where multiple connect and be able to collaborate with one another? Let's go ahead and start with Beryl.
I envision an interoperable, metaverse where assets of a particular game can interoperate in another game. So like economies, right? So assets of one economy can interoperate with another economy. I'd like to see that.
Mm-hmm. Alex, what are your opinions?
I think for that interconnected universe is certainly something that I would love to eventually see. I do believe, though, in actually a more multiverse reality, that's probably going to happen. I think people are going to align themselves culturally with the games which they find the most fit with their personality, and those economies will exist for a long while, I think, separately from each other until further infrastructure is built out and more visionaries really lead that charge. But I certainly don't at this point see any issue with a more scattered multiverse, whereby we don't necessarily always look for scale, but we just look for happiness and fairness across all of those new civilizations, if you will.
I like that, new civilizations across the metaverse. Also, Michael?
Yeah, I'm fairly consistent with Alex's thesis there of more multiverse than unified metaverse. But realistically, in a digital world, there's little difference between the two. If you can travel seamlessly from one to another, then it's effectively one and the same, right? From a development standpoint, interoperability is far more challenging. Trying to develop out gameplay modals, especially when you're doing it on chain, which the majority of our logic is being built on chain, it becomes significantly more challenging when you have to build smart contracts for many protocols versus one. Now, what I do believe is in particularly across crypto as a theme is seeing greater degrees of interoperability between protocols. And I think that in and of itself is going to lead to much greater liquidity across things like NFTs and also of token ecosystems. And that's of great benefit to everyone who's building within the space. So definitely looking forward to seeing that. I just want to close though with kind of one final thought of what my vision for the future is. And it's that metaverses and digital worlds are not unidirectional, which is to say that you're not going to be moving or like transporting yourself from physical space and escaping into digital reality. It's actually bi-directional. And I think we're going to see a lot more of metaverse augmented reality type gameplay that can be introduced in the real world. And so, kind of picture yourself at some point in the future wearing AR goggles or Google Glass or whatever the case may be. You might need to walk a mile down the street. You flip your glasses on and monsters can be attacking you from around corners, and you can actually, defend yourself, earn XP, and maybe even earn from gameplay, or find some way to, use that productive activity to create some value within the world. So I think that we're going to start to see over time this merger between physical space and digital space.
I like that, kind of like being able to walk outside and see monsters and start leveling up right away. But we had a really interesting discussion today, and thank you guys for taking the time out today to really provide your insights, and especially for the community for listening in. And with that as well, like once again, thank you guys. And where can they before we kind of like kick it off and leave, where can they find out more about what you guys are building?
For YGG, it's the Discord channel, Yield Guild Games.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I would highly recommend everybody just make a first stop at our website, staratlas.com. Really innovative and immersive website in its own right, but we also have some great materials on there, like our white paper, as well as the recently released game economics and tokenomic white paper. From there, follow us on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, but absolutely the best resource for information and collaboration is our Discord channel as well. So that's discord.gg/staratlas. And we do have a lot of guilds that are already forming. There's probably 20 or 30 maybe guilds that are recruiting players and have been since February. So of course, YGG, that's a great guild as well. So if you're looking for a team to collaborate with, reach out to them. But for sure, come join us in Discord. We'd love to chat with you.
Awesome. And, very similar for myself, you guys can visit our website, republic.co. You can find us on Twitter at Republic, and also join Republic and Republic Crypto. And you can also follow me at my handle, Laoganbaba, or LAOGANBABA. So hopefully that's not too hard for too many people to find.
I couldn't even find Alex for like 2 months. But finally, now I'm following, so I'm good.
I'm very much behind the scenes, but yeah,
under the radar. But once again, thank you guys for for being on this panel, and hopefully we'll have more future talks as well.
Thanks, Michael.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.